document, they make a revision that, they are going to use the money for, doing something else, some other business. So some shareholders who have applied for the shares on the basis of the original object clause, they can exit from the company. So that means, the shareholders will be returned the money if they don't accept the new amendment by the company, where the company is going to change how they are going to apply the money which they have collected. So after the IPO, FPO is complete, the company decides that they are going to use the money for some different purpose, for what purpose they have collected the money, some deviations, and some of the shareholders don't accept that. So in that case, the shareholders will get refund. Then we have the rights issue, which means the existing shareholders, they have the first right. So company has to give the shares to them unless they, renounce their rights, and through a general body meeting where through a special resolution they permit the company to raise money from the public instead of from them. Okay. So then we have the preferential issue, which we talked, the company can raise money through a selected few, investors, instead of going public, because the public process is very costlier. Okay. So company can offer shares to some existing, to some financial institutions, FIIs. Okay. So like Reliance has, issued a lot of shares to many strategic investors, or many other companies have done. Then we have the qualified institutional placement. Okay. Which is the second category here. So first is called the preferential issue, where the company can issue shares only to the selected few people. But QIP would be, shares will be issued only to the qualified institutional buyers. So there are 13 such financial institutions which have been classified as QIBs. The company has to issue shares to them. So it is called qualified institutional placement. We'll discuss that more in detail. Then we have the SME exchange. All the small companies and medium companies. So the stock exchange is divided into two parts, the main board and SME board, SME exchange. So all the big companies, they come up with an IPO through the main board, and all the small companies which have, a share capital of almost like 10 crores, they can raise the money through the SME exchange. So stock exchange is again split into two parts. So normally we look at the main board, whenever we go to the stock exchange, it is the main board we are looking at. The SME exchange is a small, another division of the stock exchange. Okay, so we'll discuss that. Then listing pursuant to an IPO. Okay, so we'll discuss that later. So then you have all these. So, okay, so I'm just moving on to this straight away. Just read this, Arshita.
Yes, sir. Applicability of the regulations. An initial public offer by an unlisted issuer. A rights issue by a listed issuer where the aggregate value of the issue is 50 crore rupees or more. A further public offer by a listed issuer, a preferential issue by a listed issuer, a qualified institution's placement by a listed issuer.
Okay, yeah, have you read? Okay, now let's listen to me. So the rules, regulations, ICDR regulations are applicable to these 5 categories. Okay, one is called an IPO. Whenever the company is raising money for the first time, so it's an unlisted issuer. That means the shares are not listed in the stock exchange. So the regulations will be applicable to an IPO. Then rights issue. Whenever the company is issuing shares to its own shareholders, okay, but if the issue size is more than 50 crores, then they have to comply with the regulations given under ICDR. Otherwise, if it is less than 50 crores, they can, then the ICDR regulation does not apply to them. Then FPO. FPO is by a listed issuer. So subsequently, a company which is already listed in the stock exchange, they want to raise further money, so it's called FPO. Then we have preferential issue by a listed issuer. So that means company is now raising money subsequently, but from a select few. Okay, so it's called preferential issue. The fifth one is called qualified institutional placement. That means company is raising money from the big financial institutions. There are 13 such big financial institutions in India who have been classified as QIBs. So whenever the companies offer shares to them, it's called QIP. Okay, so it is again done by a listed issuer. Now then, so there's some more IPO, initial public offer of Indian depository receipts. So it's called IDR, rights issue of an IDR. So this is, no company in India has issued so far. Only Standard Chartered Bank, about 10 years back, they have issued IDRs in India. Okay, so this law has hardly been used in India. So we'll talk about this more in detail the next time when we do an online class. An initial public offer by small and medium enterprises. So this regulation is applied to SMEs also. A listing on the innovators growth platform. So there's another platform of the stock exchange which is applicable to startups. Okay, so these startups are also regulated by ICDR. So then we have the bonus issue by the issuer by a company. So whenever a company issues bonus, so these applications are applied on to the bonus issues also. So this is the main law we are going to mainly discuss in the next class. It's called IPO, initial public offer on main board. Okay, so the regulations are contained from regulation number 4 to 55, and FPO, the regulations are contained from 101 to 131. So I've shared these regulations so you can just have a look. Okay, so this last slide for the day. Okay, read this, Harshita.
Yes, sir. Entities not eligible to make an IPO. An issuer shall not be eligible to make an IPO if the issuer, any of its promoters, promoter group, or directors of selling shareholders are debarred from accessing the capital market by the board. If any of the promoters are directors of the issuer or directors of the issuer is a promoter or director of any other company which is debarred from accessing the capital market by the board. If the issuer or any of its promoters or directors is a willful defaulter or a fraudulent borrower, if any of its promoters or directors is a fugitive economic offender.
Okay, now the first thing it says is that these entities are not allowed to raise money from through a public offer. So first of all, SEBI says that these people will not be allowed to raise money. First, an issuer is not eligible to make an if the issuer or any of the promoter, okay, or directors are debarred from accessing the capital market. Like recently, like Reliance Group, Anil Ambani Group has been debarred by SEBI for raising money from the public. Or, like we had, another company like, the Kingfisher, the director. Who was the director of Kingfisher? I just forgot the name. Okay, so they were debarred from, raising money. If any of the promoters or director of the issuer is a promoter or director of any other company which is debarred. So that means if your promoter is a director of another company and the other company is also debarred, then the parent company will also not be allowed to raise the money. Okay. If the issuer or any of its promoter director is willful defaulter, like Vijay Mallya I was talking about. So, if he's a willful defaulter or a fraudulent borrower, then Vijay Mallya has been, declared as a defaulter by the banks. So the SEBI has, debarred from raising money by this gentleman. Vijay Mallya cannot raise money by through a process of FPO or an IPO. If any of the promoters or director is a fugitive economic offender, so if he has been declared as an economic offender, like again Vijay Mallya has been declared as a fugitive economic offender and many other people, so these people will not be allowed to raise money. So these are the people who are not allowed to raise capital. First, the company who has been debarred, or if the promoter or director of the issuer is a promoter director of any other company, then also the company will not be allowed to issue shares through an IPO and FPO. Then the promoters who have been declared as willful defaulters, they will also will not be allowed to raise money. Okay, or the company or the promoters have been or the directors have been declared as economic offenders, so they will not be able to raise capital. Okay, so so that brings to the end of the lecture because I'm just running out of the battery. It can go very soon. So we have Ashwin Sikka. So Ashwin Sikka भी है, नाम डाल दिया था, अभी ज्वाइन करा तूने,
Yes, sir.
अटेंडेंस लेने के लिए आ गया हो.
No, sir. I joined at 11 o'clock.
अच्छा, joined at 11. So Harshita Paliwal is there. So Shivam Gupta. Shivam, have you noted Ashwini's name?
Yes, sir, yes, yes, sir.
So we have Tejaswa Sani तो है ही नहीं है. Tejaswa, are you there? Okay, Tejaswa is not there, so he's not going to get the attendance. Fine. So we close the lecture now. See you on Monday. Okay. And Ashwin,
Yes, sir.
we are going to have 3 hours online lecture on Saturday. Okay. So tell me what is the right time to start?